different journeys, different stories, different ways of naming the sacred, yet together we bring light. For every person who has searched for belonging, for every soul longing to be seen and celebrated, for every voice learning to rise without fear,
we gather in light, love, and affirmation.
We light this candle for remembrance, for those who carried light through darker days, who marched, prayed, sang, resisted, and endured so others could live more freely.
We honor their lives as they carry onward.
Candle of dignity. We light this candle for dignity, for the sacred worth carried within every human life, no matter their identity, story, or journey.
Because dignity is holy, we honor the life in one another.
We light this candle for healing, for wounds caused by rejection, exclusion, and fear, and for the gentle work of becoming whole again.
May this light bring dignity and hope.
We light this candle for love, the kind of love that welcomes without condition, that sees every person as worthy, beloved, and whole.
Because love is real, we share this light together.
We light this candle for truth, for stories once hidden in silence, now spoken openly with honesty and hope.
We do not shrink our stories.
We light this candle for courage, for all who no longer whisper who they are, and for those still finding the strength to speak.
With courage in our hearts, we carry the light forward.
We light this candle for justice, for a world where every person may live openly, safely, and fully affirmed, without fear, shame, or exclusion.
Until all are free, may the light continue to grow.
We light this candle for joy, for celebration and laughter, for music and movement, for friendship, chosen family, and pride.
With joy overflowing, we celebrate the gift of being together.
We light this candle for belonging, for every tradition, every background, every path gathered here
community and allies, there is something sacred, a magic, a mystery, indeed a power that connects us to other people, to life and truth that lies at the core of existence itself. And that divine spark within us means that our lives, our experiences, our perspectives, even our very bodies have something to teach the rest of the world about the divine. I just love how the queer theologian Marcella Althouse Reed said it. Our task and our joy as people of faith is to recognize that God is among us at any time, in any gay bar, or in the home of a camp friend who decorates her living room as a chapel and doesn't leave her rosary beads at home when she goes to the salsa bar. Really sit with that image for just a moment. The eternal creator dancing like crazy over at Chasers. The redeemer of humanity and all creation singing karaoke at Tetris. The sustainer of life cheering with friends at a drag show at Scorpio. God is in all of those places and more, because God shows up wherever there is love and community, flowing and moving and present in moments of joy and in struggle, as we show persistence and as we connect with ourselves and one another. We queer and trans folks have always known this on some level, but here I want us to embrace and celebrate it. We may not have found welcome in grand steepled buildings like this one in the past, or we may not have found acceptance among those who are supposed to love us unconditionally. So we have struggled and searched and found holy love in other places, in our found families, like in that friend who doesn't hesitate to come over and hold your hand through that tough breakup, or in the arms of that lover who just feels like home. These are not lesser sanctuaries. They are not God's second choice, but in fact the dwelling place of the sacred. They illustrate how God has always shown up throughout history, among people that the world has called unworthy, people others have rejected, but who nonetheless keep on keeping on with the loving, ordinary, holy work of being present with each other and bearing witness to our lives. In the Christian tradition, the Apostle Paul wrote that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That is just another way of saying that whenever you see or proof that the Great Spirit is at work. Just look around you. Look at this community and tell me that that fruit isn't there. It isn't here right now. Look at the patience it takes to come out again and again and again and insist on the fact that we are here. Look at the faithfulness it takes to be chosen family to one another, to show up with a steadfast loyalty and care that I bet each and every one of us has experienced within the queer and trans community. Look at the joy and the peace that comes with living authentically, throwing off those masks of false identity and the chains of other people's expectations. That is the fruit that grows in the freedom of a life lived exactly as God dreamed it to be. And all of that brings me to what we're celebrating tonight and this week. Pride. Most of us probably grew up thinking that pride was a bad thing, right? Pride goes before the fall and all of that. And in a way that's absolutely real. One kind of pride does lead you to think too much of yourself, puffs you up so you think you only need yourself, and you isolate yourself from your neighbors. And that truly is a type of sin. But we are here for a different kind of pride. The lesbian Episcopal priest Elizabeth Edmond wrote about that kind of healthy pride. She says that pride is the sense of your own worth that feeds your connection to others and is fed by it right back. In other words, the more you know your own value, your own worthiness, your own belovedness, then the more room you have to see the value and the worth and the loveliness of the person standing next to you. Edmund compares it to the Hebrew word hineni. Here I am. This is the declaration of the biblical prophets when they respond to God's call on their life. And though they were terrified, Abraham and Moses and Mary and all of the other prophets showed up anyway. They let themselves be known. And because of that, they grew closer to their neighbors. And in the process of becoming closer to each other,
I want to start off and give you the foundation. So I need you to go with me, and I invite you, if you feel welcome, because it's part of my coaching, we don't mind saying amen. So I invite you to say it, all right? Amen. So we want to start off with these words from 2 Corinthians that shows up in chapter 9, verse 8. It says, God has the power to provide you with more than enough of every kind of grace. That way, you will have everything you need, always and in everything, to provide more than enough for every kind of good work. But I also want to establish a foundation by a person that I look up to, the late Bayard Rustin. He says, as I watched the people walk away, I had a feeling that no force on earth can stop this movement. It has all the elements to touch the hearts of men. Today I know, I wanted to give you this title really quickly. And I want you to, as we do at my church and as well as we do at Aldersgate, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, how much? How much? That is the question, how much? That is our topic for this few seconds. Today I know this topic may seem a little unusual because I'm giving you a question before I even tell you why. The question is simply this, how much? Many of us walk into this space carrying that very question. How much longer? How much more? How much can I take? How much can I forgive? Lord, have mercy, right? How much can I keep giving when it feels like I'm running on empty? You can add whatever comes after those two words, but for many of us, how much has become the question of this season. For those who may not know me, I often preach through the lens of the Black queer theology. Yet one thing I believe with my whole heart is this: love belongs to everybody. Yes. That is what Jesus taught. And it is a value shared across many faith traditions represented in this room today. Today, alongside the sacred text, we also learn from one of our ancestors whose life continues to teach us what courage looks like. And I say his name, Bayard Rustin. Well, let's look at the background of this really quickly. When we look at the Black queer history, we find Bayard Rustin, an openly gay Black man who became the chief architect of the 1963 March on Washington for jobs and freedom. Working alongside A. Philip Randolph, Rustin organized what many believe could never happen. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C., where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his words, "I have a dream." And it echoed across the nation. But before King ever stood behind that podium, someone had to make sure the people arrived. Someone had to organize transportation. Someone had to coordinate volunteers. Someone had to believe the impossible was possible. And that someone was Bayard Rustin. Can I ask you something? Has anyone here ever looked at your calling and thought it was simply too big? It's too overwhelming. It's too impossible. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, family, the greatest obstacle isn't the vision. It's our own mindset. What looks impossible to us may simply be the place where God, or however you understand the divine, is inviting us to trust the gift already placed within us. Well, here's point number one. I'm a point preacher. You have to be willing to help someone else. Before the March on Washington, history tells us that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. studied nonviolence academically. And if it wasn't for Gandhi, we would not understand the great and powerfulness of nonviolence. But Bayard Rustin had lived it. He practiced it. He had experienced it firsthand. Rustin became one of the people who helped mentor Dr. King in understanding that nonviolence was more than an idea. It was a way of living and a strategy capable of transforming society. But in biblical texts, in Matthew 5:38-48, he tells us not to repay evil with evil, but to love our enemies and pray for those who preached it, Rustin helped build it. One proclaimed the dream, the other helped create conditions for the dream to be heard. Neither diminished the other. That reminds us that sometimes our greatest assignment is helping someone else fulfill theirs. Sometimes your purpose isn't standing behind the microphone. Sometimes your purpose is making sure someone else's voice can be heard. That is still holy work. But let me give you a moment of reflection, because all this sounds very sorrowful. But this is where many of us ask the question, how much? How much love am I supposed to keep giving to people who refuse to see my humanity? How much grace do I extend to those who continue to strip away rights and dignity from marginalized communities? How much love do I give to people who have wounded me? How much forgiveness is enough? But perhaps today we should ask a different question. How much are you willing to demonstrate what love truly looks like? Because sometimes love looks like compassion. Sometimes love looks like speaking truth. Sometimes love looks like healthy boundaries that protect your space. Because there's some people you got to say, wait a minute, don't call me. Don't come to my house. That's it. Amen? I know that's right. And Rustin reminds us that love has the power to change history. After all, it was an openly gay black man helping mentor a cisgender Baptist preacher whose message would inspire the world. That is what happens when we allow love, not fear, to lead. Here's point number 2. Opposition will come. Keep moving towards the vision. As the March on Washington drew closer, opposition intensified. But Strom Thurmond attempted to weaponize Bayard Rustin's sexuality in order to discredit both him and the civil rights movement. During that time, being openly gay was dangerous. And I'm pretty sure I got some witnesses in here. Being part of the LGBTQ plus community, during that time you faced discrimination from society, from the government, and often from the church. And I ain't scared to say it. Many were arrested simply for existing. Many were ostracized simply for being who they were. Yet Rustin refused to let opposition become his identity. Because remember in John 8, when the woman was caught in adultery and was dragged before Jesus, everyone wanted to reduce her to one moment, one mistake, one label. But Jesus refused. Instead, he said, let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone. Yes. And I guarantee you, many of them didn't have a stone to throw. Yes. Amen. Jesus would not allow a person's perceived moral failure to erase their humanity. Likewise, many people saw Rustin only through the lens of his sexuality instead of recognizing his prophetic gift. But here, Jesus teaches us to look deeper than the labels. The divine, God, however you worship your connection, it helps you look deeper than the labels that even modern day society tries to put on us. Keyword, try. To see dignity before judgment, humanity before condemnation. But here, friends, opposition will come. It comes when people fight for justice. It comes when people advocate for trans lives. It comes when LGBTQ plus youth simply need to know that they are worthy of love. It comes when we confront racism, sexism, classism, ableism, and every system that tells people they matter less. But opposition doesn't only happen in society. Sometimes it happens inside of us. It happens while healing from trauma. It happens while grieving. It happens while we're rebuilding our lives after disappointment. It happens while trying to become someone healthier than who we Remember this. The vision, before any vision becomes bigger, obstacles will come. That is why community matters. That is why therapy matters. That is why spiritual practices matter. That is why connecting with the Holy Divine, or however your faith tradition names the sacred, matters, because none of us were created to carry life's burdens alone. But here is the last point, and I'm going to sit down because I'm not a long-winded preacher. They know that they always get about me. Here's point number 3, a legacy of more than enough. Bayard Rustin had less than 2 months to organize one of the largest demonstrations in American history. Many believe it couldn't be done. But Eleanor Holmes, a young law student and volunteer, recalled the unprecedented the task truly was. In her words, she said this was impossible. Yet, on August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered. Despite of opposition, despite of criticism, despite attempts to weaponize their identity, despite every obstacle placed before Rustin, Rustin left a legacy that continues to shape history. As I close today, I wasn't alive then. My mom and daddy wouldn't even think about me. I wasn't present for every conversation. But I imagine there were moments when Rustin quietly asked, how much more? Just like many of us have. I want to speak to the activists in the room who have spent years on the front line, to the caregivers who kept showing up, to the advocates protecting the marginalized community, the people trying to pay bills while trying to keep everything together while things are getting more and more expensive. Those grieving loved ones, those grieving dreams, those grieving the changes happening in our community and our nation, we've asked how much more. But here is the good news found in our sacred reading today. God has already given you more than enough. More than enough grace. This is where we get excited. If we was at St. Luke, we're probably shouting right now. All right? But this is the good news. God has given you more than enough grace, more than enough strength, more than enough resilience. Look back over your own life. Some of you, if not all of you, have survived things that once convinced you that they would destroy you. But guess what? You're still here. Your survival has become your testimony. Your testimony has become your strength, and your strength has become someone else's hope. So leave behind a legacy of resilience. To all of you, my family, leave behind a legacy of courage. Leave behind a legacy of justice. Leave behind a legacy of compassion. Leave behind a legacy of love. Do not stop now, my family. Keep going. Because there are people waiting on your gift. You hear me? They're waiting on you. They're waiting on your voice. Stop letting the government and everything silence you. They're waiting on your voice. Because above all else, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, you matter. Now find another neighbor and shout it at him and say, you matter. Blessings in our shade.
try to be an ally, but I'm not certain if I really have anything that would be important to share. And so we've spent some time talking about my story of ministry these last 35 years. And they let me know that I did have some things that hopefully I could share today. Now, I think like some of us here, I was brought up in a home where church was important. My grandfather was a United Methodist minister, and especially back in the 70s and 80s, I was at church about 3 times a week. Now, one thing I always knew about my family and how we perceived faith was that justice and inclusion were essential to how we lived out our faith. Now, after I finished college, I went straight to divinity school and then became a United Methodist minister myself. Now, back in 1998, I served as the campus minister at UNC Asheville after I had served a couple of churches in the area. And that began 24 years of collegiate ministry. Now, back at UNCA, early in my time there, we had one very shy young man who began attending. He didn't say much. He was kind of quiet, so I was trying to let him be. And I did find it interesting when he started dyeing his hair different colors, and then he pierced his ear, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. He's just exploring different looks. And I was naive about so much at that time. It did not cross my mind that he might be gay. No idea. And then one day, he asked if he could talk with me. And I said, sure. He came out to me and let me know that he needed support for what was going on in his life. And did God love him? Was it okay? And then shared with me some of the struggles that he was having with his family. Now, I'm getting towards the end of my career now, and as I reflect on my many years of ministry, I recognize that one day, sitting in my office at UNCA, when a student chose to trust me, that was a big turning point in my career, in my ministry. It was a foundational touchstone in what I knew my ministry should be. Now, my ministry has been filled with young adults and some middle-aged and older adults who have experienced exclusion because of who they are, because of the person that God created them to be. Now, I will say over the years that my ability to recognize when someone might be queer has definitely increased, thankfully, since that day back in 1998. I've learned to open my ears and my eyes, and my instinct, to be more aware of all those unspoken things that people are trying to say to us. Now, after I served UNCA for a number of years, I moved to Greensboro and became campus minister at UNC Greensboro. And one thing I was so excited about being at UNCG was that the campus ministry was a reconciling ministry. Some of you might recognize that. The Reconciling Ministries Network is an organization that's committed to intersectional justice across and beyond the United Methodist connection, and has for many years been working for full participation of all LGBTQ plus people in the life and leadership of the church. UNCG, which one of my students told me actually meant UNC gay, and that was something else. It was such a great place to be part of a reconciling ministry, and I was so honored to be able to work there. Then the second spring my bishop could not have been more supportive. He actually had been a young minister who knew my grandfather. It was one time Old Boys Network worked for me, so I appreciate that. He also let me know that 4 other bishops throughout the country had received the same kind of letter for 4 other reconciling campus ministries. And all the bishops were prepared to deal with the situation and support us if it became an issue at the big annual regional conference meetings we had in summer. So that June, our annual conference in Western North Carolina was the only one where this issue was brought up on the floor in the business section. I was sitting in a very full 2,000-seat auditorium at Lake Junaluska, a place I've been going to my entire life, just went to this past June, and a lay member stood up and stumbled over an obviously prepared statement he had been given as he stood there before everyone and said how we should defund the entire ministry because of the work we were doing. Now, the bishop had told me what he was going to do if this happened, and he did it. He said, well, I'll take this under advisement. He cited the Book of Discipline Law, the ruling which said he could do that. Moved on, the conference budget was approved. But for the next 2 days of the conference, I had so many clergy and lay members speaking to me, and they were all so supportive. They could not have been more supportive. Now, I know there were some clergy who were part of the IRD who were absolutely, hoping that all the funding would be removed. Thankfully, those clergy have left the denomination with the conservatism. Now, the case ultimately came before the National Judicial Council, which was standard practice for that kind of situation. And things were fine. No funding was withdrawn. But I will never forget standing there on a sunny day on the lake shore right after that meeting and tears of anger in my eyes because I knew my students. And I had heard their stories about how they had been treated in churches or by families or by people who said that they loved them and they only wanted their own good for them or just wanted to make certain they didn't go to hell, something like that. The anger I felt completely galvanized me that day. And I remember telling the bishop's assistant who came outside to talk with me for a little bit, and I said, we are doing the true work of ministry. We are doing the Lord's work. And from now on, this will be up front in the work that I do as a minister and as a person. Now, until that point, I think I had just unwittingly thought that being nice, being inclusive, saying some supportive things, that was enough, because I knew how I felt. But when we are fighting injustice, we can't just be nice and say some supportive things. We have to be much more intentional and direct. Being nice and welcoming isn't enough. We have to be very clear, very certain, leave no room for people to interpret things in a different way about exactly what we think about our beloved siblings, beloved queer siblings who have been hurt and harmed in this world. Now, as allies, those of us who are allies here, we know it's a lifetime's work for us to continue educating ourselves. What do we not know that we don't even know? Whose stories have we not really fully listened to? What blinders do we have that prevent us from becoming better allies? unintentionally. One of my history professors in college made a statement I've never forgotten about the Roman Catholic Church in the medieval period. Dr. Grayson said, "Isn't it interesting that they chose to see